had the opportunity to go and do an Abraham Hicks seminar today, and I got some interesting downloads and some interesting things that came through while I was there. Abraham Hicks is pretty widely known in the manifestation slash law of attraction community, but for those of you who aren't aware, Esther Hicks is essentially an embodiment channeler who allows, from my understanding of it, a conglomerate or a gestalt of non-physically focused personalities that she refers to as Abraham for convenience purposes to come through her at her seminars, where she will call on people in the audience to come up and talk about their vibrational needs or their manifestation needs, and will help sort out what's going on with their vibration for them. One of the most common complaints or things I hear about Abraham's teachings and seminars is that it does come off as a very Pollyanna approach to things. To manifest happy things, you need to be in a happy vibration, and you would be much happier if you could just learn to ignore that the world is burning, and our state of politics is really more like Jerry Springer Thunderdome than it is a governing body.
Honestly, no one has thought this through.
It does kind of tend to come off like you would be much happier if you would just be happy. Thanks for that. This is the second time I've done an Abraham seminar, and I can tell you it's all well and good when somebody is talking about their relationships or their love life, but when it comes down to answering for some of the suffering in the world, it does kind of come off like, but you're creating so many wonderful things and it's all supposed to be this fun experience. So you've got to appreciate the contrast. And while I understand conceptually, being able to experience unpleasant things really helps us to determine what pleasant things we want and heightens the experience of satisfaction, I do feel like describing contrast comes off as a little cringe and tone deaf. While I certainly understand some of the criticisms that are out there of the thought process, the vibrational underpinnings of what is being said and the things that are being taught is very solid ultimately. And as I was sitting there listening to people today and having my own questions and contemplations coming up in the process, I got some interesting visuals and some interesting downloads. While I was listening to it, she kept using the word trending, like, how are you trending? How are things trending? And the more I listened to that word coming up, I started to think to myself that I'm not sure that trending is what she actually means. The context of the word trending wasn't quite right coming through to me. After all, trending is a word that refers to the internet and basically what kinds of things and topics the majority of people are engaging with surrounding your various search queries. And as I was sitting there listening, thinking this, it dawned on me, or I got the download, that what she's really talking about is your algorithm, your personal algorithm. Law of attraction, or essentially the way the energies are set up to draw to each other, what is drawing to you, is set up in exactly the same way the algorithm is on YouTube or your TikTok or any of your socials. It's set up not to make you happy or to make you sad or to make you anything. It's set up to drive engagement. It's completely up to the user's discretion what they choose to click on, what they choose to engage with. So whether it makes you happy or it makes you sad or it makes you miserable or whatever it is you're choosing to engage with is what the algorithm is going to consistently bring you more of. So it's like when she's saying, what are you trending or how are you trending? It's like, what is your feed? What is your YouTube page in your mental feed? What is it bringing you? What are your thoughts currently like? And of those thoughts, which ones are you actively engaging in? Is it more likely that you choose to click and comment, like re-comment the inner dialogue on negative thought processes than it is when you have a positive thought process? Are you clicking on and having the same engagement level with those thought processes? And the whole thing made me realize that just like we do on the internet, when we like something and think it was fine or positive, we don't necessarily maybe have anything to say about it. It seems like a waste of our time just to click on it and comment, cool video, thanks. It doesn't seem like a very useful comment. So we tend to be not as engaged with things of that nature than we do with things that are, outrage bait, basically rage baiting or clickbaiting, or things that are controversial that we want to get on there and put our opinion down. As humans, we really tend to be more engaged with things that we are arguing with or vehemently agreeing with. So how do we generate positive engagement that has the same level of engagement that the negative engagement drives? I think this question may be an important one to look at, not just for our own personal mental health and well-being and our own manifestations, but also for the collective at large, for the world at large right now. As I was sitting there thinking about it, I got sort of a flash or an image of the card. Like there, she had like a blue card that was sitting on everybody's chair when you walk in, and one side has a QR code on it, but the other side has like this list of feelings, and it's the emotional guidance scale. I will get it, and I will put a picture up on here of it so that you can see what I'm talking about. Hopefully she's not mad at me for posting her materials online, but it's just for reference so that you can see what I'm talking about. And I was thinking about, the lower feelings on the scale and the higher feelings on the scale, and thinking I'm not sure that it's a hierarchy at all. I have another theory about how hierarchical thinking is no bueno to begin with. But I was thinking, if it's not a hierarchy, like if my theory holds and it's not a hierarchical scale, then what exactly is it? And I got the thought or the image of it's a balance point, like scales almost, or like a seesaw, and it pivots not on one side or the other, but in the center, which is in the center of the scale is boredom or like complacency. And I was like, it makes sense, because a bored or complacent state is sort of a neutral state. But that's also the point at which something has to happen, is what I got. Because again, the algorithm is designed to drive engagement. Actually, I think her list actually says content, but the word that came through when I was thinking about it was complacency. But there's no action one way or another, or mental action, energetic action in a bored or complacent state. If the universe is designed to get us to create more and more for the expansion of all that is, then it makes sense that the algorithm is set up to drive engagement, so that we're not in a neutral state, but we are creating and wanting and doing stuff on either side of the scale. Just like the internet algorithms, it doesn't care if you're on this side of the scale or this side of the scale, as long as you're actively engaged in this experience of life. I can say personally that when I found myself in a bored or whatever state, that usually I find myself sliding into apathy or depression, sliding back down the scale rather than bumping up the scale. It's exactly what happens if you stop engaging or clicking on or doing anything with the videos in your YouTube algorithm. Is your algorithm will start dropping other videos back into your feed to try and re-engage you. And usually that's going to be based off of things you've engaged with in the past. And for most of us, we're working our way, if we're working our way up the emotional scale, we're working, doing our inner work and working on ourselves, then things that we've engaged with in the past may not be things that we want necessarily in our feed to be re engaging with or interacting with again. And if you're already in sort of a bored state, you may find yourself, like many people, I know I've done it, once again, clicking on, interacting with, or commenting on things that are really reflective of the person you used to be instead of the person that you are now. Generating, of course, more contrast, which will then spur us back into wanting again, which spurs us to want to head back up the scale again. We tend, because we are physically focused in this physical reality, we tend to want to engage with problem solving or action oriented things, something we have something to say about or ideas about what to do about. Which, if you get yourself back into contemplations like problem solving mode or argumentative mode, then really your energy is just going to attract more problems to solve or attract more arguments to have if that's what we're engaging with. So, why does it seem like it's harder or more difficult for us to remain engaged or keep the engagement up on the higher side of the scale? The word that I got that came through was imagination. And the sense that I got from it is that in order to take hopeful or positive feelings that you maybe don't necessarily have any physical evidence for at this time and move up the emotional scale to make them manifest, you have to be able to actively and convincingly to yourself engage with your imagination on a consistent basis. This is why the teachings come off with such a like Pollyanna vibe, like ignore the world is burning and imagine something better. Be delusional. Because if we can't keep ourselves engaged with a more positive delusion, we won't be able to manifest a more positive reality for ourselves. Many of our angels and guides, our personal ones that we interact with, are always telling us that everything is fine, that there isn't anything that's gone amiss, that everything is going according to plan, and there really isn't anything for us to be worried about. For me, it helped sort of explain the general reason why they advocate so hard for what feels like sticking your head in the sand in a way that made perfect sense to me. Hopefully, it was helpful and made sense to you as well. Personally, I intend to go through my social media feeds and unfollow and stop subscribing to anything that I was basically engaged with for the wrong kinds of reasons, as well as start leaving comments and engaging more often with things that I find positive, even if I don't have anything to say other than well done. And I think I intend to get a lot more delusional about who I can be and who we can be as a collective. Speaking of which, like, subscribe, comment if you feel like it is positive content, and you can check out Abraham Hicks stuff on YouTube. Although I think it's good to be aware that Esther herself doesn't upload the sessions onto YouTube. That stuff is all pirated off of the CDs that she sells, and although she is aware that the material is on YouTube, the kind of vibe I got off of it was sort of begrudgingly aware that it's there and not not petty enough to fight with it or take it down. Like, it's more important to get the message out for people who maybe can't necessarily afford the CDs, then it's worth her fighting over it. If you would like to support the original the original creator, the original channeler, you can check out all of their stuff, books and tapes, all of that at Hay House Publishing. That's the direct distributor. And of course, there is always Shmamazon if you feel like going that route. We will see you guys later.